Hi there! Welcome to this short video in which I will show you how to sculpt the body of a moth. Now, this video accompanies my sewing pattern for the buff ermine moth. And if you'd like to purchase the pattern, you'll find the link below. So let's get started. First of all, I'll show you, I've made a few bodies, and this is what they'll look like when you've finished. We have a smaller size and a longer size. And my favorite one really came out. This one is a little bit plump. Okay. So in this step one, I'm going to just set these aside. In step one, we're going to make the armature out of wire. So I've used 26 gauge wire. I've cut a length of about 6 inches, maybe 5 inches. It's enough. And in your pattern, you'll see that you have a size guide. And this is for the larger body and the smaller body. They're really quite similar. Almost the same. Okay, so if you make it a little bit too long, then you just make a larger body. Okay, so we're going to take our wire. And oops. I dropped it. It's okay. You don't need any special tools really, except the tool to cut it at the end. So we're going to, the idea is to make a loop at both ends so that we have something to sew into when we put our stuffing on. Oops. Okay. Loop. Now we're gonna kind of squeeze it because it looks like it might be a little too big. Should I make the big one? Or I'll make the small one. I'll always make the small one. Okay, so right here, you want to make sure that you have your loop, you have your first loop, and we're going to fold it so that it doesn't go below this line here. Because we want the armature to be smaller, it's on the inside. Yeah, and over that we'll put the stuffing, and over that we'll put the fabric. Okay, so this is right, this is correct. Now I can start twisting it. We will fold it again, making a littler, it could be the same size loop or smaller, and then we'll just go back and wrap. You get to here, you could wrap this too if you want to wrap your head, right? Wrap it. As you can see, it's very flexible, this size wire, so you don't need any tools. And clip it. The excess. Fold it in. Just fold it in with your finger. Size it up, and it looks about right. So that's your armature. All right, for step 2, you have your armature. You'll need your stuffing. I have more than enough here. I'm going to start with this little piece. A needle and some white thread. It doesn't have to be white. You'll be covering it up. So if you want to use your yellow or you want to use something else, you can. I have a double thread, or you could use single. So let's see. I'm going to start like this. I'll start on this side. And we're going to just start at the head, or at one, I'm going to say this is my head area, one side of it, and I'm going to just envelope it and then start, let's see, twisting. So I'm going to twist this way, it feels more comfortable. Twisting it, and we're going to cover our armature, and we're going to start sewing. Put your thread through, don't pull it too tight because the knot will pull right through, and just start sewing your armature around, your stuffing around your armature, starting at one end. I start at the end where I think it's the head, but it doesn't matter. You could, if you're more comfortable starting at the part where you think it's the bottom, the edge, the end, it's okay. We're stitching through that loop that you made. That's how we're going to hold it on. Okay, it looks like it's a little bit thin, so I'm going to pull a little bit more up because I don't want any metal coming through my fabric. Okay, I Okay, good. Now I'm still twisting, and I'm just going to wrap it around, go through, twist, wrap my thread, turn it around now that I'm at the other end. See, I have way too much. Even that tiny little piece is way too much, so I'm going to give it a trim with my little scissors. Fold that back in. Keep wrapping and going through with your thread. Going through the other loop that we made so we can hold it on tight. Keep it on. Okay, it looks all right. This little piece sticking out a little bit, so I'm going to go back up and just there. All right, so I'm just going to tie a knot and just go back through and clip it. There you have it. It fits pretty much. It's pretty good for the small one, so great. All right, here we are at step 3. The idea is to cover our armature and stuffing with some yellow fabric so that you get a body that looks something like this. All right, you'll need a 6-inch strip. So this is a little bit more. It's about 7 inches. Probably I'll be cutting some off. If you can cut it from the edge of your fabric so that you have a little bit of fraying, it'll look more natural on the moth. You'll need a needle threaded with some thread to match. It doesn't have to match exactly. And the yellow I'm using is just a sort of a buff yellow color like the moth. But if you wanted a brighter color, then go for it. If you want more of a beige or a tan, yeah, why not? A lot of these moths have different colorings depending upon how far north they are hatched or how far south or in which brood they were in. So you can use your imagination a little bit. Plus this is sort of a stylized version. Anyway, we're making it from fabric, so it's not going to be exactly the same. Okay, so I'm starting at this end, which I think is the end, the back end. This would be the head for me. Anyway, you decide which part you want to be the back end. And this is, the tail, the bottom. So I'm starting here. And the idea is we're going to wrap it. But in order to be able to wrap it, we need to secure it first. So I'm going to take my needle. Wait a minute, let me grab that. Okay, and I'm going to go through. And I'm going to take a few stitches to secure that, sticking in my doily all the way through. So through the fabric and the stuffing. I'm going to do that again, getting through the armature as well. Coming back, so that's a second stitch. Threads are knotting up a little bit. Seems to happen every time. Doesn't matter that much because you're going to cover it. If you feel more comfortable, then use a single strand of thread in your needle. Okay, I'm going back through. So this time my needle is on the outside. The thread is coming from the outside, and that leaves me free to start now wrapping. So we're going to wrap it. Not too tightly, but not too loosely. We want to see the sort of, let's go back. I want to see the layers of the, each time we wrap it will become much like the little divisions the segments of the abdomen. So I'm still wrapping. Okay, so I've wrapped almost up to the head, and here's where I will use my needle. I'm going to move my scissors out of the way. My needle's coming in through there, so just come right back out. And start turning my needle, my thread all the way around, taking a big stitch through everything. See how that looks. Move on up. See that I'm going up to the next area that I want to encircle the body with, the next segment. These don't have to be exact at all. My other one was a mess, I think, but this one is maybe a little better. As you do it, you sort of get a little better at doing it. Okay, I've got 2 segments wrapped. I'm going to now go on up a little higher, all the way through. The advantage of that is you're sewing, you're touching your thread, your fabric really tightly, and it's going all the way through the armature. Going up a little further, and one more. Oops. Still a little bit of a knot. There it is. All right. Okay. All right, so we're all the way up to the head. Look at that. Now, when we get to the head, you can just drop your needle, let it fall, let it rest, and you're going to get up to the head. And what we're going to do, as you can see, is we're going to see the top of the head there, right there. And we're going to keep wrapping. And the idea is going to be to close this fabric over the top. So where is my needle's here? So I'm going to just take my needle from where it is. It's right here. So we're going to take my needle and I'm going to just move it up so I'm up in the head area. All right, so what I'm going to do is come through an edge and then come back on down, angling down so that it pulls it down a little bit. Come back up. Holding it with the other hand, and then grab some of that fabric. You can come out if you want, like this even, and then go back down, folding it down. Now we've covered the head, and we need to trim this. Be very careful not to cut your thread. And I'm going to just trim that. All right. Now I'm going to continue. My thread is here, coming up here. And now I'm just going to come and sew the flap, this little flap down. So just a few stitches. And go secure it all the way through. Oh, I like it. It looks pretty good. Now let's check it against the pattern. Now either it's going to be a small one or a large one, because I made it pretty small. So okay, so it's a little bit bigger. You can see it's not perfect, but it's not bad. It's more like that one, but it's not as wide. It's pretty thin. Okay, so If that really bothers you, you could trim it a little bit at the end, but remember, you'll get rid of all these nice little rough threads. You can also go, if you don't want to see your stuffing at the bottom, and take a few stitches through so that to close it a little bit. Back and forth all the way through. Yeah, just a couple of stitches like that. All right, so it's slightly bigger than the small. It's not quite as plump as the big. It's not bad, not bad. All right, so what you'll do is you will, wherever you've left off, wherever you've decided to stop, make a loop, tie your knot. And since I'm close to the edge, I'm just going to put it right at the bottom. And trim it. Leave it. In another video, I'll show you how to do French knots on the wings and on the body.